Hey everybody, welcome to Should I Love with Jason Stewart and my guest, Oscar-nominated actress, Candy Clark. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
I'm so excited to have you. You're one of the only people that I've had on that I didn't work with or wasn't a friend, and I hope you'll be a friend. And I
don't know, Jason. I don't know. You have to prove yourself.
I'm trying my hardest. I swear to God, I met you. I walked down the block. I cleaned up the house. I've done everything.
Where's the ribeye?
I don't cook because I'm Jewish, but my mother will.
Oh, okay.
I can call her and she could bring it by. I'm sure she's got something in the refrigerator. She lives alone, but she can have
matzo balls.
Matzo balls or a 6-course meal for anybody. I've just been running into you on so many different events.
Yes.
And during the Oscar season for Birth of a Nation when I was doing it, and you were so sweet, so easily able to talk to and everything that I thought, I'm going to ask her. It took me a little while to get the guts, but I did.
Oh, now.
So I want to start at the beginning.
Okay.
You did an episode of Room 222.
I did.
And that was your first job, I'm guessing. It says it on IMDb, I'm not sure.
No, first job was Fat City.
Oh, really?
Yeah, my first job was Fat City, a John Huston film starring
Jeff Bridges,
Susan Terrell, Stacy Keach.
Man.
Yeah.
That was
it was just kind of handed to me on a silver platter, and I thought, wow, this is easy.
How did it happen?
Well, I guess I had been doing some extra work, and I'd walked into Lynn Stallmaster's office in New York
famous
City.
casting director.
Yes, huge. And I wanted to do more extra work, and I gave him my picture, but lo and behold, Fred Roos was there, visiting his friend Lynn Stallmaster, and he said, hey, you want to, this was back in like 1970, 69. Anyway, he says, hey, you want to come with me and watch him shoot the screen test for The Godfather? And yes. And I said, sure. That's when you would just walk off with a stranger, back in the...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it was the kind of hippie, free-flowing time. And we went out to Queens, I think it was, and I watched Jimmy Caan. I met Francis Coppola and all these great people. I even did a screen test that almost got Francis fired.
Why did it get it fired?
Because Francis and I returned several times in a row, Once I got a little taste of being on the set, I kept going back. Anyway, Francis and I I had a cape and a hat. And so he had this little dopey little act that he would do where it looked like he was winding me down and my feet would disappear in the cape. And then he would wind me back up and I would be standing tall. And anyway, so we filmed this. He had a scrap of film after he did all his screen tests. Anyway, the big boys saw that, and I guess they were just looking for something to maybe get rid of him. And he almost got fired for that. I found out much later. But, yeah.
Well, what I always read about that is they were always trying to get rid of him somehow.
Yeah, and so this was the excuse. Exactly. Wasting film on stupidity. So anyway, he didn't get fired, thank God.
Do you still have that screen test?
No, I never saw it.
Ah.
Yes. And so anyway, Fred Roos.
Who was a big producer at the time.
He was a casting director. He was not a producer.
He wasn't a producer?
No, he was a casting director.
Oh, because years later he became a producer.
Yes, he
did.
But
I remember meeting him when they had the open call for The Outsiders.
Oh, yes. He was a very big casting director like Lynn Stallmaster. And he was calling me all the time. I was modeling in New York, and that's what I wanted to do. I spent a lot of time trying to get established, and I was starting to get established in the modeling world, doing Ingenue and 17 and Mademoiselle, the teenage...
Girl Next Door kind of thing.
Yeah, teenage stuff. And I'd worked really long and hard to kind of start getting some steady clients. And Fred Roos starts calling me, says, I want you to come to California and try out for this part in a film called Fat City. I'm like, no, I just want to be an extra. I want to do my modeling. And he kept bothering me. And then he wouldn't take no for an answer. He sent a script. And then I'm reading this script. And
it's the power of no.
He's just like, pushing and pushing and pushing. And so he said he wanted me to come and try out for this part. And so I finally cave in. I'm like, okay, but I know it's not going to work. So I come in. I've got this part.
So you went all the way to California?
I went all the way to California.
On your own dime?
Yes.
Wow.
No. Yes, on my own dime. That's right. The first time I went on my own dime.
It's John Huston. Did you know who he was?
No, I had no idea who these people were. It was before the internet. You know, if you weren't a big movie buff, then you didn't know.
Exactly.
And so I go out there and I try out. Here was my contingencies. I said, okay, I'll come out, but I want to go to the Academy Awards and I want to go to Disneyland.
Two completely.
And so he said, okay. And so I went to the Academy Awards and I went to, I sat behind the pillar on the third floor.
So this is 1972.
It's like 70.
Yeah,
I think we shot that film in 71. So it had to be like.
And who knew 2 years later you'd be going to the Academy Awards yourself?
Oh my gosh. Anyway, so I'm on the third balcony. It might have been at the Shrine Auditorium. Anyway, I'm on the third balcony. I'd rented those little cheap binoculars on the first floor, you know. And
right.
I'm way up high behind a pillar, but I'm so excited. You know, it's the Academy Awards. And so, you know, the little cheap binoculars barely worked. I mean, they didn't work at all. So the next thing I know, I'm going to Disneyland. Fred has an assistant, and we go to Disneyland, and I buy this hat. And it's a big brimmed hat that says Disneyland across the front. And I'm thinking, because the scene they gave me was this crying scene, and this is like way beyond my skills.
And you're a model who just wanted to do
I
extra
just
work.
want to be an extra. I just want to be in a crowd. I don't want to dialogue. So anyway, I go in. There's a guy named, there's Fred. And I look at him for help, like, help me. And he looks at me like with complete blank eyes, like he never met me before. No help at all. Very straight-faced. There's John Huston, and there's Ray Stark, and then this other guy named David Dworsky.
And Ray Stark, one of the biggest Hollywood producers.
They were all there. I have no idea who they are or why I'm here, but I'm here. So I go in, I have my Disneyland hat on, and I think, when it comes to the crying part, I'm just going to duck my head and make some sounds like, ooh, boo, you know, fool them, get it over with, and get out. So I made the mistake of wearing a silk blouse, and I was just boiling hot, probably red in the face, sweating down to my waistband. I do the scene, I duck my head, and I say thank you, and I jump up and run to the elevators. And I'm pushing the button, trying to get out of there, and I hear feet behind me, and it's Fred who's saying, they want you back for a screen test. And I'm like, no, I just want to be an extra. I don't want to do acting. Anyway, so I come back.
Where did you have any training?
None.
So it was completely...
It was just, you know, I was beyond my skills. So anyway, I'm like... A few weeks later, I'm being put up. They fly me in this time. And I'm put up at the Chateau Marmont. I call my mother. You've got to come here and help me with learning this dialogue, this scene. So she comes out, and I am like melting down. This is like way beyond my, you know. I'm just. So it comes the day for the screen test. And so I show up, and Margot Kidder is trying out, and Jennifer Salt.
Oh, she was wonderful. She was very big at the time.
Yeah, so they're trying out, and then there's me. And so I meet my acting partner, and his name is Jeff Bridges.
Did you have any idea who he was?
No, and I thought, wow, this guy's cute. And so I did the scene. Oh, there was a cutaway car with the whole front end cut off, and Jeff and I are in this pretend car. There's John Huston with the big old cameras that they used to have, where they would load the thing with film.
And those big things.
Yeah,
that
reel-to-reel thing.
Oh, yeah, it was
and
just huge.
You know, and here I am, and I thought, God, I'm just going to like model my way through this. I'll just model and kind of move and pose and do some talking. And maybe, hopefully they won't pick me. Anyway, next thing you know, I get picked. So that's what I mean. It was kind of handed to me on a silver platter.
But you must have had this incredible innate talent that you...
I don't know. It was... But anyway, Jeff Bridges and I hooked up. We were together for like 3 or 4 years. We did the film together. It was a lot of fun. But it was also very difficult. And the part in the film was way bigger. When I got it, it was a big part. But it slowly got whittled down when they realized I had no idea what I was doing. And they called...
Do you think it was you, or do you think it was...
No, I know it was me. They called in an acting coach named Jeff Corey.
Oh, yeah, he was big.
Oh, my gosh. So he's doing this. Jeff Bridges, and Jeff Corey would meet like many times while I'm trying to learn how to act, like overnight. And I'm like, it's so over my head. And Jeff Corey is doing this stream of consciousness stuff, like one word leads to this next word, leads to this next word. And it's just like so beyond me. So I wind up crying like every session, you know, hopelessly crying. Anyway, they kind of just whittled down the part and worked with what they had, which was a total greenhorn. And I got through it. And when I see my you know, people watch that film and they read into my character whatever they want.
Always.
Not realizing that I am just like modeling and saying dialogue, trying to make it sound as relaxed as possible. And they have no idea that, you know, I'm just kind of a blank slate, really. And when I see the film, I have all those memories
of course.
The part and how
of what you were feeling,
bad I was, and how what I consider very one-dimensional. But anyway, it's a favorite film. It's a classic film. Fat City is actually, you know, the dialogue was, I compared it to what's his name, John
Bukowski.
Who?
Bukowski. That's what I.
No, not. Bukowski?
Bukowski is what I always said. He reminded me of that film that Faye Dunaway...
Well, it was like Hemingway. The writing was so beautiful. And so, you know, one scene led to the next. And the acting was so good. And Stacy Keach was fantastic. He was very experienced. And so was Susan Terrell. And she played that character, Oma. And she was nominated for an Academy Award. And she was when we did the film, she lived on a houseboat, and Jeff and I would go over there, and she was, because of her character, she was collecting like street people, and so she would have little gatherings on her houseboat. Jeff and I would show up, and then I just remember one incident where we were over there, and she had a guy who played pie plates and spoons, you know, and that kind of entertainment. But Susan...
She really lived the part.
She was Oma. She was Oma.
And it's so funny because I met her years and years and years later at the unemployment office. I'll never forget it. It was on Burnside Avenue, and she had a baseball cap on. Her hair was dyed blonde in this weird color, and she said it was for her part. And she was so sweet and so kind.
I loved her. Yeah, she was.
And God bless her when she had the terrible thing where her legs had
She's got some sort of blood poisoning.
It was just terrible. I remember sending her, because it was a big thing about her in the LA Weekly, and I remember sending her $100 because I just thought, God, if that ever happens to me or something terrible, you want to know that you can give back to somebody.
Yes.
Even if you don't know them, just because she's a brother or a sister in our business.
I was so... When I saw her, I was shocked because I didn't know she had lost her legs. It was some sort of gathering. She was in a wheelchair, but she was just chatty. And she had a man, I think she was living kind of in Pasadena, And she was well groomed. So whoever was taking care of her really took care of her really well. She, had her makeup on, and her hair was combed, and she was dressed nice,
She
ironed.
she always, I mean, if you see any of the plays that she did.
Oh, I did.
Yeah, she really saw herself as a femme fatale.
Yeah.
So I can imagine she wouldn't let herself.
She was kind of like a Betty Boop or
yes.
something.
Yeah. So you went from...
Or a Clara Bow.
So you went from Fat City,
yes,
which was an academy.
And then to Room 222. And what happened was, it was like a year between jobs.
Because the film hadn't come out, right?
Yeah, and I thought, every appointment I'm going to go on, I'm just going to get it.
Right.
Because the first one was like...
And it'll be with all these big stars.
Yeah.
Who's next?
So I'm like, who's next? And so I'm like going on appointment after appointment and not, because I had no training. I was just striking out over and over again. And finally I got this little gig in Room 222 with Judy Strangis. And it was a big hit. High school.
It was a major TV show at the time.
High school thing. And my character believed in magic or witchcraft, and I lost my little good luck charm. And I think my whole story, I can't remember much about it, and I never saw it. I mean, I might have seen it at the time. I think it revolved around me trying to get my amulet back. But
did you feel more comfortable acting in that than you did?
No, still a stick, still very stiff.
And how did American Graffiti come to you? Because it was part of the Coppola people, because it was George Lucas, right?
And Fred Roos cast.
Same.
I guess Fred just never lost faith in me. I guess he thought eventually she's going to get into some classes and maybe learn a few things.
Well, he just adored you, obviously.
Yeah, and so
how did that come about? Because that was a very low budget film, right?
It was. I was like my. Yet another appointment where I go in and I strike out. I go in this time. It had been a long, long time since I got any jobs. I think it was Fat City, Room 222, and then nothing. And so I have a manager, Pat McLean, who is quite famous.
Yeah. Boy,
famous.
you're like Hollywood
royalty.
I know.
I'm like, luck.
Yeah.
But anyway, so I hear the film. Nobody's seen the script. I hear the film takes place in the 50s. So I thought, by golly, I'm dressing for the part this time. I am going to go in costume. So I show up. I'm sitting in the outer lobby to meet George Lucas. And I'm dressed like a 1950s teenager with the blue jeans rolled up at the knees, a Letterman sweater, and ring around my neck on a chain, and bobby socks and some saddle Oxfords, and I'm the only one dressed like this in the lobby. And I
oh God,
really embarrassing. And so I go in and I meet this man, and it's a tiny, tiny little office. It's George Lucas, a big desk, and an only room basically for standing, and then there's the wall behind you.
Wow.
And there's the wall behind George. Little tiny office. So I'm standing there all dressed like that, and he's not saying much, and I'm probably red in the face again with sweat down to my waistband and, floundering, and I know I've just blown it. And so I leave, and a couple of weeks go by, and I get a hold of the script. I said, Pat, you have got to send me back. She said, well, once they see you and they don't want to see you again if you didn't pass. And so I beg him, but please, you've got, just send me back. And so I go back, and I'm dressed normally, in just a nice dress. And George Lucas acts like he never saw me before. He doesn't mention, weren't you the person in the saddle Oxfords? Nothing. And the ponytail and the bow. And I'm like, so we're just kind of chit-chatting about nothing. And next thing I know, I'm being asked to do a screen test. So that day comes.
Were you a blonde at the time? Because I remember being surprised that you
kind
weren't.
of dyed red hair.
Yeah, I remember being surprised when I saw you after American Graffiti that you weren't a blonde because the part was such a blonde part.
Well, that was the hairdresser's idea, and she was absolutely right. She said, the film's shot at night, and for your character to show up, you're going to have blonde hair.
Oh.
And we looked for a wig, and so we came across, that was back when they would rent wigs from wig houses. Anyway, we get this wig, and it's too small for me, but it's perfect. And she said, because, my hair is really straight, so I didn't want to spend the whole movie in hot curlers, and in between takes, because it was very foggy where we shot, and my hair would just go limp. And you had to have that flip, that was the style of, big hair. And so anyway, we get this wig, and she says, yeah, it's made out of yak's hair. The flip will not move. And so we cut it up the back, because it was like the size of a child's head. And so it had to split it up the back. She probably sewed it back together before she returned it. Split it up the back, and then she would kind of mush the hair around in the back so you wouldn't see that it didn't fit. And I wore this thing, and thank God, I had that on my head because it was like a hat. It was freezing cold where we shot. And all I had
Santa
was
Rosa.
that. We shot in Petaluma.
It wasn't Santa Rosa, California?
Well, Santa Rosa is near Petaluma.
Oh, it is?
But
Okay.
we shot in the actual town of Petaluma. And Mel's was in San Francisco, long gone, on a street called Mission and Van Ness.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Were you shocked that you got the part?
I was so shocked. When we did the screen test, it was a big cattle call type screen test where there were just hundreds of actors because there were so many parts. So there were just all these guys and gals, and there was Judy Stranges. Judy Stranges from Room 222. I just knew she was going to get the part. So anyway, I had this little scene memorized, and I see Judy, and she goes in, and then finally my name is called, and it seemed like there was like 200 actors there, and it's at Dove Film, which was on Seward Street. It was
it's a lot of studios on it. It's right over here.
Yeah, on Seward Street.
It's a lot of studios on that street.
And it was at Dove Films. And I go in, because I'm like, I'm not getting this part. It's just going to be another strikeout for Candy Clark. So I go in, I meet, there's George, and he has this little kind of pink plastic video camera. And there's...
pink plastic video camera?
Yeah, it's early video,
Wow.
and it's a low-budget film, and George is a beginner. The only film he had under his belt, really, was THX 1138.
With Robert Duvall.
Yeah, which was not a commercial success. What is really weird is I happened to see it in New York City. I went to the movies by myself, and I happened to see THX. So I thought, this film stinks. All kind of took place in a parking garage where Robert Duvall is running from ramp to ramp. That's all I basically remember about it.
Wasn't everybody bald in it?
Yeah, and it's like supposed to be futurist.
I didn't know what was going on.
What the heck? I paid money for this. Anyway, so it's my turn to go in. I go in around this little alcove, and Haskell Wexler is, it's at his big studio where he shot a lot of commercials.
Incredible Academy Award-winning DP.
On Seward Street. Anyway, so I go in, and they have a park bench, and that's supposed to be the car, and I meet Charles Martin Smith, who's like 5'4", and I'm 5'7". I probably had some heels on, not ready for something, and I think, I'm not going to get this because, in the movies, they always like the man taller than the woman.
Right.
So, okay, well, let's just go through the motions because it's not going to happen.
You know what it seems to me? It seems like that you just have these great chemistry with men, and that there's something about your leading lady quality that you have this thing, because I'm seeing it now. I could see
Are
this.
you?
Oh, yeah. You have this, this strength about you that probably a lot of men like. And it's certainly in that, if I remember American Graffiti, I remember going to it. I remember being at Freddie Hoopsher's house. I remember it being 1972, and we're looking in the paper, and I said, God, we should see this. This looks great. You know, I didn't know. I was always interested in interesting, different films. And when I saw the movie, you know, I had the reaction that everyone else in the country had. Oh, my God. I want to drive around in a car for hours on end and just see what everyone's doing.
It revived cruising for sure.
Yeah, and now I'd rather kill myself than do that.
I know.
And two other people.
If you go to Bob's Big Boy in the Valley,
right.
any Friday night, it's the same thing. It's a recreation of American Graffiti.
Is it?
Yes.
And all of a sudden, because that film was so big, I mean, it was nominated for Best Picture, and you were nominated for Best Supporting Actress. Was there a campaign, or what happened?
I ran my own campaign. Because,
you did?
Yes.
Smart.
Universal did not believe in it.
I love hearing that.
Yes,
it's very Sally Kirkland.
Yes, she.
Did you know Sally?
She did my campaign. I was her prototype.
Oh, wow. So tell me what happened. Tell me what you did.
Well, I went to see Variety and Hollywood Reporter, and I had some pictures, and I talked with one of the people that designs ads. And, you know, I told him, you know, I could only afford quarter pagers. And so I would...
And they had an actor rate in those days. Do you remember that? They would have an actor rate.
It seemed high to me.
Oh, it was still
like
high.
Several $1,000.
It was crazy.
For a person that didn't have any money. Anyway, I thought, you know, Universal certainly didn't volunteer to do this. And, you know, campaigning and all of that was totally different. Today, it's total support from the studio's major ads. Back then, it was like, you know, they would kind of do stuff, and, you know,
it was considered gauche to do it.
Well, for an actor.
Yeah.
But I thought, you know, I'm in a business. I have to advertise.
That's so smart.
You know?
What made you, I mean, where did you get I mean, it just seems like, wow.
Yeah, I have to take care of myself. This is a business, you know, show business. And so I thought, this is, if I don't do it, they're not going to do it.
So the dumb blonde was the smartest one.
Yeah, so I went to Variety, and I split my money between both of them, so that that's when people subscribed to both. Oh, yeah, I did. Papers. And, you know, you would, I think it was a 2-week campaign. Today it's like months on end of expense and parties and screenings. Then it was totally different. Then you dressed yourself, you know. That's when the Academy Awards, you would see all kinds of fashions.
Oh, sure.
Today everyone's, you know, in the most expensive gowns. But then it was quirky. And so I split that, and Sally Kirkland credits me for the idea.
Oh, I love
and then that other lady who was, that other actress, she did her own campaign. What was her name? Somewhat recently. It was about people living in trailers and out in the snow, and what was her name? I'll think of it in a minute.
Melissa Leo?
Yes, she ran her campaign.
Why do I know this? Oh my God!
She ran.
How do I know? You and I are just like on the same place.
Yeah, snow trailer.
But still, that's how many movies could that be?
Yeah, and she did her own campaign.
For the one going
she
across.
She mimicked. But, you know...
I knew the gal Misty who played the Indian woman. She stayed in this office.
Did she?
Yeah, you know, she killed herself, the poor thing. She was
Misty.
so... She did August Osage County. She was, I think, bipolar and just refused to take medication. It was just really sad. But a brilliant, brilliant actress. And a kind woman when she was on her meds. It's just a crazy, crazy business of people, but you meet some incredibly wonderful people at the same time.
Sure
so when you got the nomination, you must have been like,
oh my gosh.
Universal must have gone crazy, because you would have thought it would have been the famous person who was Cindy Williams at the time, right? She was the one that.
Well, she didn't run a campaign. I was the only one that did it.
She had been.
She could have run a campaign.
Travels with My Aunt with Maggie Smith.
I tried out for that part where what's his name? The director of Travels with My Aunt, Cooker.
George,
threw water in my face. I tried out for that part.
Well, he threw water in your face?
Yes.
George Cookier.
Yeah. When I was doing a screen test for that part.
And why did he do that?
Because I had been told that he was a real stickler for the dialogue.
Oh, my God.
So I'm there doing a screen test, and I'm mixing up the dialogue. And so he gets water on his hands and flicks it into my face. I'm totally shocked, and of course I didn't get the part.
Yes.
But yeah, George Cukor,
so what was
supposedly a woman's director.
Well, Betty Davis is director and Katharine Hepburn, yeah.
But I guess
apparently they did the lines right, I guess.
Yeah, or he picked them anyway. I don't know. But anyway, Cindy got that, but that was after Graffiti.
Oh, was? Oh,
Yes.
yeah, 73.
Yes.
So tell me, when you found out, were you just, I mean, Universal must have changed their tune.
Not really. No, they didn't. They didn't even buy me a dress. I bought my own dress. Yeah, they really, I think I got I have some old telegrams. Lou Wasserman, who I'd never met, sent me a telegram. Congratulations. And a few other people sent me telegrams, studio people. But that was about it. They might have sent some flowers. It's so long ago.
Right.
It's like 1973. But anyway, I go with Jeff Bridges. I go with Jeff Bridges, and I have my dress on like you said, a few years prior, I was on the third balcony behind a pole.
2 years later, literally 2 years later, they're being nominated.
I can't explain it. Anyway, so
in one of the most
I'm
popular
there. I'm
films.
sitting on the second row now, and in front of me is Tatum O'Neal, and down the aisle is Sylvia Sidney and Linda Blair and Madeline Kahn.
Madeline Kahn for Paper Moon. Let me see. I'll tell you her.
No, not Madeline. Tatum O'Neal for Paper Moon.
Madeline Kahn was also nominated for Paper Moon that year.
Was she in there?
Yes, same year.
Oh, wow.
Sylvia Sidney for Summer Wishes, Winter Dreams.
Yes.
And who was the other one?
Exorcist.
Linda Blair for The Exorcist, yeah.
So I just feel like Sylvia Sidney's going to get it.
She's the...
I feel
old-timer.
she'll get the sentimental vote.
She was also really good in the film. You were all
I never saw it.
Oh,
Anyway,
she's
so
great.
I want to see her reaction when she wins, when they call her name. So my eyes are down there because I want to see what it looks like to be a winner. And they say, and the winner is... That's when I think they used to say, and the winner is... Right,
before they said the Oscar goes to...
Yeah, and the winner is... Tatum O'Neal. I think there's a film footage of me going, what? And she goes up as like 9-year-old and dressed in a tuxedo and
with this weird haircut.
And she's sitting on the first row. The rest of us were on the second row. So they must have known. I don't know.
Maybe they did in those days. And they would see
maybe they knew. Yeah, accordingly. But we were all on the second row, and she was on the first row. She pops right up and goes up there and makes a tiny little speech and takes it away.
Well, still, no matter what happens in your life, you are an Academy Award nominated actress. Forever.
I was on cloud nine for weeks.
Let's pay the bills here for a second. A little commercial here for Casa Crawford. It's your home away from home. Step into the new quarters filled with the original art. This B&B is steps to Silver Lake excitement. 5-star chefs, restaurants, clubs with the Silver Lake sound. Everyone's there. It's 3 miles to Hollywood or downtown. So come relax in the quietness of Casa Crawford. And when you're ready to step out for excitement of LA's hippest neighborhood, according to Forbes magazine, call him. It's my friend Scott Crawford, Casa Crawford, your home away from home. Call 323-663-1664. Or just hit me up and I'll let you know how to get in touch with him. Thank you, Scott.
Yes, thank you, Scott.
Yes. So after that, you got to work with, I think, the really big one that came after that, if I remember correctly, is probably, to me, was a couple years, was The Man Who Fell to Earth with David Bowie.
Well, I had a film in between, but I got sick and wound up in the hospital. I was to do Report to the Commissioner, John Frankovich movie, yes. And
Wait, report to the commission.
Mike Frankovich.
Producer, right?
Was the producer.
And wasn't Sidney Pollack the director?
I can't remember who the director was.
I'll tell you in a minute.
But, like, I was having terrible pains in my stomach. And I was at Dan Tana's one night. And every time I ate, I would get severe stomach pains. And so I was talking to whoever was sitting across from me. And he said, you ought to get that checked out. So I go to the doctor, describe my symptoms. At this point, I'm turning yellow, but at the Academy Awards, as I was getting ready, I thought, wow, where'd you get that tan? You're looking good. So at the Academy Awards, I had hepatitis, infectious hepatitis.
Oh, my God.
Yes. And I had to call. I went to my doctor. I knew I was in trouble when he said, I want you to call someone to pick you up. You're going to the hospital right now. I'm like, and he had put a Kleenex over the receiver. And so I was just whisked away, put into the hospital. And Susan Blakely took the part. They suddenly had, like, they were leaving in like 2 days. I had done all the research, wardrobe, all of this stuff. Was supposed to be an undercover drug bust type policeman, and that was the big halt in the career.
But you also had a lot of other stuff too. You did the film I Will For Now with Elliot Gould and Diane Keaton.
Yeah, a little tiny itty bitty part.
And then you did a couple more TV things, and then you worked with Bowie.
Yes, David Bowie.
I mean, that film was sort of iconic.
Yeah, The Man Who Fell to Earth.
And Nicolas Roeg, one of the most.
Roeg.
Just, you either love him or hate him.
Oh.
Am I right or wrong?
Well, I always liked his work. I liked Walkabout. I liked Don't Look Now. And up to
Don't Look Now was probably, to me, his most amazing film.
Yeah, and so up to then, he hadn't done a whole lot that had been released here in the U.S. And then he did The Man Who Fell to Earth, and then, he went on to do a lot of films with Teresa Russell and Angelica Houston.
What was David Bowie like?
Well, I thought he was perfect for the part.
Oh, God, yeah.
Yes.
I don't think anybody else could have done it.
I was the first one cast. I was with Nick Roeg one day, and he had a meeting at the Beverly Hills Hotel, and he said, here, read this, and, wait for me. And so while he was in this meeting for 2 hours, I was, in the hallway reading this script. And so he comes out. We're going to have lunch at the Beverly Hills Hotel. Comes out and said, well, what do you think? And I said, I think it's fantastic. I think you should do this. It's I really could see it all unraveling before me while I was reading it. I think it's a great film. Do it. And he said, you want the part? Yes, I would love to do this part. And it was just handed to me once again.
That seems to be your story.
Not always. There have been many.
But this was the late 70s. I think is when, after you obviously felt better. You got to work with, Robert Mitchum.
Yes.
That
was great.
Towards the end of his
Big Sleep. That was we shot that in England, London, and that was the summer that Elvis died, 1977. I'll never forget it.
And then you worked with Paul Le Mat again on Citizen Band the year before.
Yeah, CB.
And that was a bit. And you worked with Jonathan Demme. Was that his first movie, or one of it?
I think it could have been his second. That was not a film I wanted to do, but I was kind of trying to wrangle with Freddie Fields because I wanted to do Looking for Mr. Goodbar.
Oh, every woman in town.
I know. I really wanted that part. And so I didn't want to do Citizens Band. It was just like sketchy characters.
But it became
they thought they were going to cash in on the CB craze, which... the people that use CBs don't go to see movies, but they thought they would.
But it became a big, years later, it became a really big cult film.
It did.
Oh, yeah.
I got it in the White House, though.
Really?
Yeah. We had a screening in the White House. Freddie Fields and I think someone else that were, in the production went to Well, what happened was Jimmy Carter was running for president, and they had a thing at the Beverly Wilshire Hotel, and I went to that thing because I wanted to meet Jimmy Carter because I had a feeling he was going to win. So I went to that, and I wanted to get an autograph photo. That was my motivation. Get this autograph
the
photo.
Oscar-nominated
Yeah,
actress
I want to get an autograph because he's going to win. So I was talking to this guy. You know, I went by myself. I'm talking to this guy named Pat Caddell, who turns out to be Jimmy Carter's campaign manager or whatever. And I said, I want an autograph photo because I know he's going to win. And so Pat and Caddell and I became friends. Because here was someone that believed in Jimmy Carter, you know? And so...
And you're a Texas girl.
Yeah, and...
Was he a Texas guy?
No.
No, South Carolina?
I'm not sure where
He's a
Pat
Southern...
Caddell
No,
was
but
from.
Jimmy Carter.
Jimmy Carter. And so I kept that contact up with Pat Caddell because I knew Jimmy Carter was going to win. I just knew it, and I probably was wrangling to get an invitation to the inauguration, you know? And so I kept in contact with Pat Caddell. And so when Citizens Band was coming out, I called Pat and I said, hey, we got this film, you know, Citizens Band. You think you can get it screened in the White House? So next thing I know, me, Freddie Phils, and it seemed like there was a third person. We went to Washington, D.C. We were in the White House, in the screening room, and it wasn't much of a screen. It was like a pull-down screen with folding chairs.
Oh, my God. I'm sure that's changed.
Yeah, probably. And Jimmy Carter, no liquor. They pass out water, you know, in glasses because that was before bottled water. So we all just sitting in our seats, and the lights go. Oh yeah, and a little bit prior, Amy comes in. She's sitting on the first row. She's got a briefcase, and all during the screening, she's got this briefcase open and she's shining a flashlight into it. I don't know if she had a gerbil or a you know, whatever, a rabbit, but she is the whole screening. She's got this with a light shining into it, and then there's the screen, so it's a real distraction.
Oh yeah, right.
And nobody tells Amy now. Come on.
She's doing her homework.
This up. Yeah, she's probably doing her homework. So anyway, we do the screening, and you know, my eyes are on Amy. What is she doing? You know, I'm sitting towards the back, and screening is over with, and then we all go out. Me, Pat Caddell, I think Freddie Phils. There was a guy named Hamilton Jordan, and another guy named Jody, who they all worked at the White House.
You've got incredible memory.
Yeah, we all go out to discotheque. First, we go to some press bars, and the whole town, from what I could see, was totally smashed. At the press bars, I mean, weaving, bumping into each other. And then we go to another press bar, and all those people, and I'm thinking, wow, these are the people running the country? And
you're welcome.
We go to
welcome.
We go to a disco or some sort of nightclub, and Hamilton Jordan by this time is lying down. We're in like a bench seats, you know, facing each other, and I see Hamilton Jordan is lying down on the bench, and I'm thinking, these are the people running the country. They're totally smashed.
And now we'd be happy to have them run it compared to what we have
now. Totally smashed.
So let me ask you this. So Nicolas, the famed acting coach, who was going to direct you and report to the commissioner, and now cast you in When You're Coming Back, Red Ryder. Am I correct?
So he was going to report to the commissioner. He wound up directing.
Yeah.
I don't remember.
Well, I just looked it up, yeah. And you did When You're Coming Back, Red Ryder, which was, when we talked on the phone, was the play that was being done in acting classes.
With
when
Mark Madoff as the writer.
And
Such a good script.
Stephanie Faracy, who was so good in it. Lee Grant, Peter Firth.
Peter Firth, I felt, was miscast because he was British. And
he was very well. He had just come off Equus,
and he had.
Yeah, I thought so too.
He did a British accent out in the middle of nowhere in the country, where the story is taking place. So I thought he was missing.
Well, probably now with people like it would be more apt that people from other countries would be here, but in those days it wouldn't be.
No, the Australians are really good at doing American accents. But
what was Lee Grant? I just love Lee Grant.
Well, she was really good in the part. She was very, very nice, and so was Pat Hinkle. Very nice.
Oh my God, yeah.
Very nice.
Great character.
Stephanie Ferrisy. The dialogue was amazing. I, of course, had to do nudity because it was the 70s. But anyway, I was playing opposite Marjo Gortner, who had gotten this film off the ground. I guess he met with Mark Medoff, and
he got to play the lead.
Yeah, he got to be the.
And weren't you guys together for a while?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, we were.
Now this is really interesting. So you did more American Graffiti. Now, did you want to do that?
Yes, I was the one that suggested it to George, which turned out to be a bad suggestion because.
But it was an interesting exercise in film.
When I suggested it, I thought that it would just pick up where it left off. That was my idea of more American Graffiti. But when I got the script, and I kind of pushed George into, call up, so how's it, and kind of, the cheerleader behind it. And let's get all the other actors together and But Bill Norton wrote the script, and he did this, at the time, I guess it was too interesting, juxtaposition of the characters, but all on New Year's Eve, but in different years. It was like a time. It was
a little too.
It was too brainy, and my character was a lot of fun. It was me and Mackenzie Phillips, and we were in Haight-Ashbury, and we were hippies, and going to see rock and rollers.
See, I was disappointed that she was. I thought she was going to become some housewife or something.
Well, what I envisioned Debbie is going on, it starts off, I'm working in a strip bar.
Right.
Because there's a snake that my acting partner and I have to carry around in the trunk of the car throughout the movie. But anyway, I thought Debbie would wind up to be a hairdresser.
Oh, please, yeah.
I thought she would go into the hairdressing business. And it turned out she went into strip club with a snake. And, my boss is trying to get me to dance with a snake. And then wind up,
it just became more obscure.
New Year's Eve. And it's, me and Mackenzie living together in a hippie house. And we're going to, Haight-Ashbury that evening.
The amount of people that you've worked with that I just love. You work with Karen Black.
No, I never did.
Yeah, it's a film called Where the Ladies Go.
She might have been in it, but there was a cast of millions.
Oh, was there? Oh, I just always I knew her in her later years.
Yeah,
what a great.
She might have been in it, but it was like a cast of millions. And when there's that large a cast, you really
people don't realize at home that sometimes you won't meet people that you're working with. And sometimes you'll meet them in promoting the film and become great friends, too. That has happened to me a lot. And then you did Blue Thunder, which was a really popular
with
film.
Roy Scheider.
And you got nominated for a Sci-Fi Award.
Did I?
Yes.
It says that, but I don't remember being there. But
In those days...
Some things,
It was not a big deal in those days, probably. Now it's a much
even the
deal.
Academy Awards wasn't that big a deal. That was the whole era when
Marlon
Brando.
Show up.
Yeah, people didn't show up. Marlon Brando was putting it down,
And Dustin Hoffman finally said in '79, "Oh, I guess this feels sort of good. I don't like the idea that we're the competitions and the whole thing." Yeah. I mean, and
the whole attitude has changed.
Oh my God! Yeah. Well, now because it really means something to people that you did that film was directed by John Badham, who was wonderful.
Yeah,
wonderful
John
director.
Badham.
And then I got to say, the film that just was one of my favorite all-time films is At Close Range.
Oh,
because it's about the.
It was a true story.
But it's about what happens when there's nobody to watch the kids in a way. When there's nobody there to sort of the what's the word? The debilitation of America and the way people have children without thinking about them and without, you know. And Sean Penn's performance in that was just.
That's
great.
when he first was going out with Madonna.
And you know why I know this? Because I had done my first talk show ever as a stand-up comedian. And in the movie, there's a scene where he's walking away and Sean Penn is bow-legged. And I'm driving on Sunset Boulevard with my dad after doing my first talk show as a comedian ever. And I said, Dad, turn this car around. That's Sean Penn hitchhiking. And he's hitchhiking. And we actually picked him up.
Pretty neat.
He came to my house, and my girlfriend at the time drove him to the valley.
Sean
and I said, where's Madonna? He says, oh, we're in a fight.
Oh, so he probably bailed out of the car she was driving, and he was like... But
you played Christopher Walken's he was
girlfriend, wife, or whatever.
Yeah, Jamie Foley. It's one of his first movies. James Foley.
Yes.
Really one of his first films.
Some really great actors in that film.
Oh my God! And the film was so it just really, really touched me deeply for some reason.
I'll have to see it again and see if I react the same.
I wonder if it holds up. I mean, there's
probably. I mean, Sean Penn and Chris Walken.
Let's move up to
It's a true story.
Yeah. You also were in the first Buffy the Vampire, the original one. Did you work with Paul Rubens at all?
No.
He was in it, because I remember that was the first time he was ever in a film that I remember we didn't play Pee Wee Herman.
Yeah.
And I thought that was exciting.
I had a little tiny part as Buffy's mother.
Still, I mean, I just think the really great directors have always really loved you. I mean, David Fincher, working on Zodiac. I remember thinking, that's Candy Clark. I think, oh, that film just really, it's very similar to the series he has now called Manhunter.
Oh, is it?
Oh, yeah, very similar in style. It's that sort of 60s, early 70s. It looks like Dragnet, but yet the people are, they're not allowed to feel too much. It's this whole thing. You were terrific in that. It wasn't the largest part either, but still, it was a wonderful film. It was great to see you in it.
Thank you.
I loved it.
It was, I guess my cross-acting partner was Jake Gyllenhaal. But I was the one that always got the letters. I was the secretary, I guess, to the boss, and always opened the letter and then screamed, ah!
Did you have to audition for that?
I don't think so.
Yeah.
I think I just got the call.
And then recently, Twin Peaks.
Yes.
Had you been in the original? No.
No.
And you did a couple episodes. Now, I didn't see it. Tell me about working with, David Lynch.
It was pretty... Joanna Ray is the casting director.
Love her.
She casts all of David Lynch's stuff.
She's great.
Yeah. Anyway, I get the call. They want to see me, and we're not doing any dialogue. We're not doing a scene. We just come in and talk. So I thought, oh, great.
I love that. Yeah.
And so anyway, so I go in, and it's my turn. There were several people there, and it's my turn to go in. And what took me kind of by surprise is they're filming you talking to Joanna Ray. So it's not quite relaxed, because over Joanna Ray's shoulder is a camera. So you're like trying to be natural and have a conversation while being filmed. Anyway, so I get through that. And, I get the part. And I get flown up to, there's no script. Oh, no, there is. You get sides. Because
everything was they didn't hush.
You had to sign a paper that no one would see these sides. And what sides are what the script, your scenes.
Your scene.
That's what sides are. That's just another word for your scene. Yeah. And in case
Woody
people
Allen does
don't
it
know.
all the time, and they do it on some of the shows of the Marvel films. Whenever I've auditioned for,
it's really silly, but
they're so afraid that the story's going to get out. And I guess with the internet, it's true. You and I are not.
This story, there would be no way that David Lynch's story, his epic, would ever get out. I mean, try to explain it.
Right. Yes, I do.
Once upon a time. And then it went here and here and here and here and here. But anyway, so I get these scenes, and I'm trying to learn it, and it's really disjointed, really hard to learn. One sentence doesn't go into that, and it's kind of just a litany of complaints to my husband, the sheriff. You know, we got mold.
Do you remember who played it? That's okay, go ahead.
We got mold, we got, you know, the dog is shitting all over the house, Dad's car won't start, nothing gets fixed, you know, it's just like, you know, just a tirade out of nowhere. So anyway, we're going to rehearse this scene, and I've got it, I hope, memorized. And so I burst in, and there's David Lynch, and we're in a really small room because it's supposed to be like the little office.
Well, that's lucky for you, though.
Yeah.
Right.
And there's David Lynch in the corner of this tiny room, the cameraman, David Lynch, me, and you'll find the other actor's name. I can't remember it offhand. And anyway, David Lynch has a megaphone, an electric megaphone. And he's like, action. And I'm like, I burst out laughing. I had never seen that in my life, where a director is talking through like a megaphone.
But it's a tiny room.
A tiny room. I can hear you, David. I'm right here 10 feet in front of you. But anyway, that was his quirk. You know, he talked to people through a megaphone.
You also worked with Soderberry on The Informant.
Oh, yes. On the
And that I was up for that. A lot of comedians were up for that.
Were they?
There were so many in there. Yeah, he wanted tons of comedians. There was, the word was out, and half the movie is filled with comedians, everyone from Tom Popper.
Wow, neat.
Yeah, and I'm actually working tomorrow night with Bob Zaney, who was in it, and Rick Overton is a friend. He's been on the show. What was Soderbergh like? Because he runs the camera, right?
It was my first adventure working with Red digital cameras.
So yeah.
Really tiny, and you spent more time in the makeup room than you did shooting the thing.
Because they didn't set up lights.
There's no lights.
Wasn't it disconcerting at first?
It was. It was total light.
Oh.
And he said, "Well, I think we got it." I was like, "What? It's over with."
Yeah. I mean,
it was like too easy.
I gotta say
It was too easy. I expect more difficulty when I work. I want it to be a little harder than, you know, like you're filming on an iPhone, you know?
I did a whole movie on
Yeah, it's like, wait a minute.
That
this is
scared
not
the
real.
shit out of me.
This is not real.
Yeah, I felt like I was doing some home movie.
Yeah, it's like so strange.
But now I'm so used to it. Everybody uses small cameras, and I've done so many.
Yeah, you get
films.
used to it, but at first
it was like very, very.
Huh?
Well,
we're done. What?
Well, we are done.
Are we done?
This is it. Is there anything you want to talk about that's coming up for you?
Not really. I think I've covered the first third of my career, and we'll have to get back together and do the second third and the third third.
Well, let me ask you a question before we go.
Okay.
Do you find, I mean, your career has been such happenstance, it seems.
It has.
And I think the thing about you is it's chemistry. And that's what I keep thinking. I think you probably have incredible chemistry with people. And there's a thing about you where you're so in the moment. I can see that. And that's sort of very, very appealing because you don't see that in every eye.
You don't?
Some people do. Everybody works differently.
Uh-huh.
Some people come about things differently. I always say, people always ask, how do you work? I say, it depends on the character for me. Some things are really much easier and some things are much harder.
Sometimes you can just get the character by putting on the wig.
Exactly. That's what Carol Burnett used to say, that it all came from the outside.
Yeah.
And sometimes I was doing an episode of Swedish Dicks and I didn't know the character till the day I went there. And then I saw Keanu Reeves was in the scene. I thought, I'm going to do it the way he does it. And I'm a terrible impressionist. So I just did it the same way he did it, and it came off great. So you just never know what
were you playing, a robot?
No, but for me, playing someone that's uptight, I was sort of a Vegas mafioso, because I'm a very touchy-feely, sweet guy, and this guy was a sort of Vegas stock like this, and so I don't know. In my mind, that's what it was, but he's very robotic, and he has.
Yes, he is. He's a stiff.
But I got to tell you, he's the sweetest man ever.
If you're listening, I didn't mean it.
But he's really charming in real life. He really is.
He's loose in real life, but he seizes up.
Not
with
loose. He is a sort of, you know, contained, tight-lipped kind of guy. But there's a kindness and generosity about him, you know. And he gave me my performance because he gave me the style. And Peter Stormare is the star of the series. And he also. So sometimes you just get it from being present and being in the moment. I have a feeling that's probably what you do incredibly well.
Yeah, once I get into costume is a great help for me, and hair. So, you know, once I do that, then I can...
hair and costume for me, too.
Yeah, I can branch out from there.
Because I let my hair grow sometimes, and I cut it off, or, you know, or I grow my beard, or I got a mustache, or I change, you know, I change the kind of clothes I wear, the way something fits.
I like playing monsters. I got to play a great monster in Cold Moon. Those are fun to play. Oh, monsters are great.
Cold Moon, yes, I saw that.
With monster makeup. I played an elderly woman whose daughter
You look incredibly young. I don't know how.
You.
It's just
well, a wig, a gray wig.
And one role says grandma, and I thought,
yeah, grandma. And I would let my face, when I did the scene, just like let my face go really slack.
Oh, I can see that. And all of a sudden there's...
It has to relax even more, but it just has to go totally... no muscles in the face.
And it gives you an age, too.
Yeah, it ages you. You know, because my normal thing is smiley and upbeat. But, yeah, to let it go really slack. And then it was a low-budget film, and I had eyeshadow, and I put it under my eyes, and, you know, darkness in between. And, you know, I drew in lines around the mouth, and, you know, accentuated everything with this really slack face. And so it was really fun. It was a challenge.
You've done tons and tons and tons of guest stars on TV. Do you enjoy working in episodic?
I want to do more. I don't get the opportunity.
Why do you think it is?
Oh.
Do you think it's because women of a certain age, though you don't look your age, honestly?
That and, you know, who's representing you.
Oh. Well, we should talk it after the show.
Yeah.
Well, this has been great. It's been an hour. I don't want to keep you any longer. I feel like you're willing to stay. I feel like it's an hour, but I just so love to have you.
You know, you don't want to bore the audience.
No, they're not bored. No one's more bored. Please, Candy Clark, thank you so much for being on my show. Really.
Yeah, you think it was good? Is it off?
It's off. It's almost off. I'm going to say goodbye. Goodbye, everyone. Take care.
Goodbye. Do you want me to read the commercial?
No, we already did it.
Well, you can do it again. I wanted to try my hand at reading it.
Anyway, everyone, take care. Until next week.
Yay.